Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of franchising. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another great episode of Ion Franchising. I am Lance Graulich, your host. So today's guest, with more than 1,000 learning centers worldwide, this brand has been ranked on the Entrepreneur Magazine list of top franchises for over 15 years. Our next guest has been with this award-winning company for over 10 years, served as the COO and most recently as the CEO. Welcome to the show, Shant Assarian, CEO of Mathnasium.
Thanks for having me, Lance. Appreciate it.
So awesome to have you here. So you're not going to make me do math, right?
No, not today. We'll skip that part.
Perfect. Well, Shant, let's talk about your backstory. How did you get to Mathnasium? How did you even get into franchising in the first place?
Sure. It was an accident or an act of God, if you will, maybe looking at it that way. But it was good, and I'm glad I'm at Mathnasium. I didn't plan to be. I came out of public accounting back in 2010, and I joined Mathnasium as the company's controller. And we were much smaller back then. We had less than 200 locations back then. Our top franchisee, our top learning center, was doing about 300 to 400,000 in gross revenues. Now our top centers are doing more than $1 million. So I've seen a lot, and I've been with the company and helping the company grow and building out the systems that exist today. And so it's been a wonderful experience.
More than $1 million at a Mathnasium franchise, pretty darn impressive. So in the world of franchising, when you first got into it, because you didn't plan on it, you have an accounting background. That's what you went to college for, right? You were going to be an accountant.
I got my undergrad in accounting, and then I was doing my MBA when I came over to Mathnasium.
Yeah. So your initial thought was there an industry that you were looking to target? It certainly wasn't the franchise world, right?
No, I was in public accounting, so I wanted to have private company experience, and I really wasn't familiar with franchising at the time. I thought of franchising as McDonald's or Burger King or Subway, but I really didn't know enough about it. And as I learned more about franchising, I really appreciate the model here. It really allows a lot of people to build a business for themselves, doing things that they enjoy, and having their own control over the operation and their livelihood too. What I didn't realize is how big of an impact it has on our economy, how much it contributes to GDP, how much it contributes to employment in the country. So it's really a great structure. And so I'm really glad to be part of it.
So in all your years with Mathnasium, what is it? What's the secret sauce? I mean, obviously you're in a kids related franchise. The kids that you're tutoring are as young as how old?
We can start as early as kindergarten.
Gotcha. Perfect. Yeah. And how old? What's the oldest kids that come in?
It depends on the child. If a child can sit through at least 30 minutes of time with an instructor, as early as 4 at the youngest ages, we can work with children that young. It's really amazing working with children. I've got kids, and their capability to learn, I think we really underestimate what they're able to do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be sit down academics the way we're used to, but just learning through life experience, and they grasp concepts and math concepts, and they really outperform what we think they could do. So we could start pretty early with kids.
Yeah, it seems like kids, the younger they are, the more like a sponge that they are. And then as kids become adults like us, we're more like concrete, right?
Absolutely.
We're not adaptable. We're no longer pliable. We're like stuck in our own ways, literally.
Yep. Yeah, and with math in particular, kids enjoy it and they have fun with it. What happens is when they start learning about math concepts, they start seeing it around them in their everyday life. and they pick up on things. And then with some pieces, it becomes a puzzle and solving a puzzle. I'll give you an example with my eldest. Before he turned 7, he bursts into our bedroom about 6:30 a.m. one morning, and he's like, do you know what 8 times 14 is? And remember, he's not 7 yet. And my wife turns to me, is like, whose kid is trying to do multiplication this early in the morning while I'm trying to pretend to still be asleep because I don't want to put in that brain power to figure it out. But the point is why did he do that? It's not that he's in love with math per se. It's because it's a puzzle and he's challenging himself to solve that puzzle. And what's happening subconsciously is he's building self-esteem, he's building confidence, but it's a game, and kids really take to it. It's when they aren't taught in a way that they understand, or it's when they become frustrated or told that they're just not wired for math. That's when you start having these negative associations. But when none of that noise exists in a child's mind and they're not sitting there worried about a grade, rather they're just learning, they really enjoy it. Patterns especially, that's another thing I found with young children is you teach them the concept of a pattern, and all of a sudden they'll start seeing patterns in life and they'll say, dad, look, that's a pattern. And they'll start asking you to challenge them with math questions, whether it's simple as addition or whatever it might be. So they really, at heart, when the natural state is that they enjoy it. It's fun for children.
Yeah. The first part of what you said, especially in that response, it got me thinking really the gamification of learning and math, making things fun, making things interesting. Kids today are playing games. Everything seems to be a game when they're forced to listen to some of the boring teachers out there. Now, I come from a family of educators and school principals and elementary schools, so I certainly appreciate the good quality teachers that are certainly out there. But, why does a typical customer come to Mathnasium for help? Is it to get ahead? Is it to catch up? I'm sure you have a wide variety of kids coming to you.
Yeah. Look, we appreciate all teachers. Anyone who wants to teach the next generation, they're heroes in our book.
Absolutely.
It's math in particular is challenging because different children will learn math and understand it in different ways. That's not to say one is more intelligent than another or more capable than another. People just take to math in different ways. Some are visual learners, some can just do just fine with whatever the teacher is explaining. But when a teacher has 20 children in their classrooms, 30 children in their classrooms, making sure that every single child understood what the explanation that they provided, maybe they gave 2 explanations, but maybe their explanations, as good as they were, just wasn't the right one to resonate with one child or two children in the classroom. So it's tough. And parents come to Mathnasium because their children, in some cases, may just have been frustrated because they just haven't been able to understand, and they're struggling in school, and parents are looking for a solution to their children. We've built a really great reputation. We have a reputation where children attending Mathnasium really enjoy it, genuinely enjoy it, and parents learn about this and they want to try it out, especially if they've been looking for solutions and they haven't found the one that's worked for their kids. So those are the kids that are coming to us who have challenges, have been struggling. But we have a lot of children that also come to Mathnasium to stay current with their studies,
right.
And to stay ahead too. I was talking to one of our franchisees in New York just this morning, and he was talking to me about how he's got a large population of students that have been enrolled for years. And I asked him, why are they staying with you that long? And he said they enjoy it, first and foremost. The parents value education and want to make sure that their children are keeping up. The parents feel that coming to Mathnasium, that is keeping their kids advanced, and so they want to continue that service. So It's multiple reasons. And a couple of years into me being at Mathnasium, I had a parent call me one day. We had a local location that had closed. We reopened in that same location and we're doing really well. But in that time, the parent was really upset that that location had closed because their child was upset the location had closed. And this was, again, 1 or 2 years into Mathnasium. For me, I was handling our finance and accounting and some other operational areas. So I was still really learning the nuances and what makes us so effective. But it didn't make sense to me early on as to why is it a child would be so upset to not be able to come to Mathnasium. I mean, after all, isn't this after school? Like, why is a child wanting to do more math after school? But it's the realization of, oh, it's not just the math. It's not just the technical transfer of knowledge. It's the subconscious self-esteem boost, the confidence boost, the true enjoyment, the feeling of, wow, this is something that I can do and I can be really good at. Some kids, may not be the all-stars in sports in their schools, but they can point to math and say, you know what, I'm really good at this. Yep. And they sometimes stand out in their class as being the top person in their classroom for math. And that's a real point of pride. So that's the effect we have.
I love it. So as far as your curriculum, are you offering, I mean, look, we just came through a pandemic. Hopefully we're done with that. But have you always done live and in person and online? Tell me about how the curriculum's set up.
So it's historically been live and in person. In recent years, even before the pandemic, we started making online delivery as an option, still live, still face-to-face, though through, like we're speaking now, through the internet. And with the ability for the students to see what the instructors are doing on a digital sheet of paper, and for the instructors to see what the students are doing, all live. So it's replicating, to the extent that we can, that in-person, in-center experience.
That's great.
We've proven the education to be highly effective online, just as it is in person. And with the pandemic, when our learning centers were forced to close, all of our learning centers, effectively all of them, made Mathnasium available to their customers, to their students, through this online platform. And we kept teaching through the course of the pandemic until the learning centers started to reopen. The curriculum itself is not curriculum in the sense of it's a set of materials that each child gets. It's custom material for each child.
And I apologize. That was my custom sort of lingo, or that I use for teaching related stuff.
Yeah, no, and I'm using our own lingo, but the way our materials work is a child will come to Mathnasium and we'll do a thorough assessment to really understand what they need to work on and what they already know. And then our materials are compartmentalized such that we can assign very specific material to each child to make sure that we're only working with the child on what they need. And we're not going through material that they already know. And that's one thing that's very frustrating for kids, is having to work through material, work on subjects or topics that they already know. So right. We don't want that.
That's when kids get really bored.
They do, absolutely.
Not this again.
Exactly. Like, I already know it. Why do I have to do it? It's also not interesting. When you're learning something new, whether it's math or whatever it is, there's a level of interest that really drives you to actually learn. So so that's how our curriculum works. And then we regularly reassess and reevaluate how far has a child come and what is ahead for them for their curriculum at school, and what is it that we need to work on next. And it's a constant communication with parents to keep them informed, and that's how our system works.
Great. So let's talk about call it the business of the business. What is the typical investment to get a Mathnasium open? Square footage is typically how big?
Yeah, our learning centers range from 1,200 to 1,600 square feet. Now, our larger learning centers who have developed over time and have larger enrollments can be larger. They could go up to 2,500 square feet or so. But our franchisees usually start, again, in that range of 1,200 to 1,600 square feet.
Got it. And that typical investment is how much?
Anywhere from a 100 to about $150,000, including the franchise fee. And it depends on what the state of the build out is for the space you're taking. If it's if the work is light, then it could be on the lower end. If there was a concept that was there before and there's a lot of build out to take place, it's not that our build out needs are much. We're actually very simple build out. It just depends on the state of the space that the franchisee is taking and what they can negotiate with the landlord.
Yeah, ideally, you want a second generation space. I've done so many restaurants over the years. You're always looking for a second generation space. Somebody else has paid for plumbing and electrical, and
Exactly.
you're just making some slight modifications.
Yep. All we need in the center is an open space and a bathroom, and then the rest is carpet, paint, some light fixtures, and not too expensive, but good looking furniture.
Yeah, good. Sounds great. And then at this point, with 1,000 or so worldwide, how many? I mean, I would imagine some people are just doing a single unit and others eventually take on more responsibilities as multi-unit operators. I understand you have quite a few multi-unit operators.
We do. We have approximately 200 franchisees who have more than one location.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's obviously one of my favorite indicators myself as a franchise broker. I love hearing about multi-unit operators because it shows that the brand's obviously worth it. People are committing to multiple locations, and that's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, in our franchise business review survey, which we do every year, one of our higher ratings is on the question of, would you do it over again? And the answer is yes. And would you refer this to a friend? And the answer is positive.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, obviously people feel great that they're doing a great service. I mean, I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but do the majority of your franchisees have kids?
It's there's a lot of variation out there in terms of our franchisee profile. We're seeing many people who are becoming franchisees at a young age, at an age that they're too young to have children, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Given today's averages in terms of when people are having kids. So we have people who certainly have children. We have people who have grandchildren, and we have people that are just starting that adult life and they're deciding to make franchising their profession.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like if I was going to ask you for a cross section of your most successful franchisees, your top 50 franchisees, you're going to tell me they're all age groups and they all had previous lives that were quite different.
Yeah, exactly.
Why does it always happen like that?
You've heard that before. It's our common denominator, if you will, is the passion that they have for teaching children, and many times passion for math, and in the care that they want to provide for their communities, and doing well by their communities, shaping the future generation. So it's coming from that place, and then combined with engaging in the business actively, caring for the quality that they're providing, executing with discipline. These are the common factors that are driving success. It has nothing to do with demographics or age or where in the country people live, or where in the world, in fact, where our franchisees are. It comes from that place of having that passion.
And you just mentioned about alluding to the fact of how active they are. So do you require that the franchisee be full-time in the business, or there are people that are hiring managers to run it that are passionate about the business? What are your rules on that?
We definitely require someone who's full-time running the day-to-day. Now, that doesn't have to be the franchisee themselves. If the franchisee wants to be more of an investor type and hire somebody to run the operation, that's perfectly fine. We definitely want the franchisee to be actively involved in managing and knowing the business. But many choose to be actively involved and run their locations themselves, at least in the beginning, before hiring somebody else.
Right.
We found that to be great because they intimately understand the business. They start building the relationships with the communities. Um, and that works really well because then they know what needs to be managed and how to manage because they did it themselves. And
Yeah.
so it's common for our franchisees to start off themselves and then hire. Many of those decides to open additional locations and become a multi-unit operator. Some decide, it works for their personal lifestyle to have someone run the learning center, and they just actively manage and oversee. What we care about is what's in the best interest of the franchisee. What do they want to do? What's going to work for them? We definitely want each of our learning centers to be successful, to serve as many kids as we can in the local communities. But how the franchisee decides to do that, really want it to be right for them.
Sounds great. So let's talk about marketing, or we could talk about technology in general, but marketing. What do you do to ensure that a franchisee comes out of the gate and ramps up as quickly as possible? Because that's always the sort of the mystery. As much as franchising takes a lot of the mystery out of a lot of things with the systems and procedures and the brand being incredibly established, it always seems the lingering question is, when do I make money?
Yeah,
And nobody ever knows that answer because some people are quicker at learning the system than others and getting
sure.
off, at a faster pace. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, obviously, the better to start, the quicker you can be making money. We strongly encourage our franchisees to start the community relationships even before their centers are open. Start networking with the schools, start networking with complementary businesses. Just look into the community connections that our franchisees have or the people that they're going to hire have, and start letting them know that Mathnasium is coming. This is what Mathnasium does. This is the reputation Mathnasium has based on all
Help is
the
on the way.
help. We're here to serve. So start building those relationships. Signage is very important. So putting up a coming soon banner on your location to let the community know, hey, Mathnasium is getting ready to open, and here we are. We're literally right here in this location. Um, Online presence, starting at least with social media online to build the awareness online. So we've got a pretty robust system in place, and this is through 2 decades of experience working and collaborating with our franchisees to capture the best practices, systematize those best practices, and then train to our new franchisees and then support them. So I gave you a sampling, but it's a pretty robust system.
Love it. Yeah, some people forget when it comes to support. You've mentioned support quite a bit, which is an amazing blessing in the world of franchising. You're not, you're in business for yourself and definitely not by yourself.
Yep.
But you have such a deep history in so many franchisees. So besides the great training they get, which we'll talk about next, what kind of training does a franchisee go through? And then you have the best practices of the wonderful franchise community of Mathnasium. And then obviously you have some sort of coach or business consultant that helps them ramp up appropriately and check in here and there. I wanted to talk about the training and the ongoing support.
Sure. Yeah. Let me start with training. So once the franchisee is on board and has become the franchisee, we immediately start on the training and start working with them on identifying their location. On the training front, it's an initial training that is a combination of online instruction, recorded and live online instruction, and then in-person training that takes place in Los Angeles too. The in-person has components where it's in our office, and we're going through the materials together. But then we're also taking franchisees to a live learning center, one of our own learning centers, and training them in a live environment where they're getting actual real experience. And
Is
then
it, is this kind of an episode of Are You Smarter Than the Third Grader? Is that the show? I know. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah. It's that real experience is really, really important. It's one thing to do it in theory in a classroom style setting, but it's another thing to actually be in the center in front of a child. And I remember one of my experiences, I was working with I think she was a first grader, and I just could not get her attention. My challenge wasn't teaching her the math that was in front of her. My challenge was getting her attention. And I saw that she had a Hello Kitty pencil box. I started talking about Hello Kitty to the best that I can. I have no clue to Hello Kitty. But boom, I caught her attention. And in catching her attention, then I was able to start working on the math. But that something like that is very difficult to teach in a theoretical classroom setting. It's until you're sitting there and actually experiencing it, that's when you're going to learn.
Right.
So we do our best to do that with our franchisees. It's a lot of hand-holding. We're right there with them. We're not just releasing them into a learning center and saying go. No, there's a lot of scaffolding there to help them in that live environment. So it's robust, and franchisees are well prepared to open when they are about to open. And it's not, well, you're trained and done. No, there's a whole support team that is backing our franchisees. And what we even have, we have specialists on our support team who specialize in that period of time before our franchisees open. So from the point that they sign their franchise agreement to the point of opening, we have these specialized support personnel. And in an ongoing basis, you're right, they are assigned a franchise business consultant who is there to help franchisees grow the business. And they're with you throughout your time as a franchisee. There's ongoing training as well. Our franchisees and their employees will always have access to the online training that we've developed. We provide webinars. We provide an annual convention, which is a great place to network and build relationships among the franchisee peers, but it's also a great training opportunity. So tremendous training, and then tremendous support. I started touching on the support with the specialists, but with the FBCs, in-person visits, Zoom communications, and then we've got a central supports team here too. So our FBCs, they're primarily tasked to help our franchisees grow their businesses. Our central support team here is more reactionary. And if you ran into some technical problem, you need a password reset, or you ran into some technical issue that you need just someone to immediately attend to, well, we've got our central support team that reacts very quickly. When maybe the franchise business consultant is helping someone else, they wouldn't be immediately available that way. So
love it.
These are big investments that we've made over the years, and it's all about helping our franchisees be able to serve more kids, have higher revenues and higher profitability naturally. And it's a win-win approach here. We will also grow as our franchisees grow.
I love it. Sounds wonderful. Let's talk about staffing a little bit. So, the world seems to be short people, or at least the US is. I don't know how, people that want to work or versus people that potentially don't. So who gets employed? Who are you looking for? And how have you been able to support the franchisees, especially as times have gotten tough in the US with these labor shortages? The great resignation, I guess it is.
Yeah, that's a great question.
They're all becoming franchisees.
Right. Yeah. It's good for franchising in some senses, I suppose. We're not immune to those challenges. Now we're blessed in that being a Mathnasium instructor, that's the vast majority of the employees in the Mathnasium system. being a Mathnasium instructor is great to have on your resume. It shows an ability to convey knowledge. It shows an ability to work in a team, because our learning centers, it is a team environment with the instructors and other personnel running the learning centers. You're working with children, and that's special. In some cases, children test your patience, and you need to have that patience. In some cases, you need to really engage your sensitivity and your emotional awareness in working with children. So it's a great experience. It really builds capability in oneself. And when you go to your future employer, for whatever your career path is, to be able to say I was a Mathnasium instructor, it's really valuable on a resume to have that. So we have that in our favor in terms of attracting talent.
And are they high school kids? Are they teachers? Who are these instructors typically?
A large portion are college students or recent college students or recent college graduates. We do have some high school seniors that franchisees hire. We do have retired teachers. There's a pretty good cross section, though. Either recent college grads or current college students are probably a larger chunk. The important thing, obviously, to know the math, but also to be able to work with children, to be able to relate to children, and that's a big important factor.
Wonderful. So tell me now about your process. When you have, let's say, a franchise broker like myself introduces a candidate, from the first call all the way to the meet the team, discovery day, validation, tell us a little bit about everything, the highlights.
Yeah, the first thing we look for is we want to understand why would you like to become a Mathnasium franchisee. We want to know that you're coming from a place where we are aligned. For example, if someone approaches us and says, "Yeah, I really don't like working with children," well, we're probably not the right fit for you, and you're probably not the right fit for us, right? So we want to make sure that you want to be a Mathnasium franchisee for reasons where we are aligned. We want to make sure that the franchisee has the needed resources. Now, we talked about our investment requirements. It's not very high, but there is still an investment that's necessary, and we need to make sure that our incoming franchisees have the financial capability to actually become a franchisee.
Fair enough.
Another aspect that we take into consideration is we have standards, we have expectations. We're working with children, and it's very important to make sure that they're taken care of, that it's a safe environment, it's high quality for the kids. So someone who wants to act freely and do whatever they want may not be the right fit, because our franchisees can't do everything that they want the way they want to. There are a number of aspects to the business that have to be done in specific ways for various reasons. And so I think that's really important when someone is considering becoming a franchisee. In food, for example, you're going to want to cook the meal with a specific way, with specific temperatures, with specific ingredients, with specific periods of time for cooking. And so if someone wants to be free to operate the way they want to, probably not the right fit.
Have to be able to trust the process and follow the recipe.
Right. Now with that, in our situation, we're not totally cookie cutter. We do like allowing our franchisees to have some freedom of expression and be able to have, inject some of their own personality. And we have some ways where franchisees can definitely do that and make their Mathnasium business their own. So there's a balance between making it their own and injecting their own personality versus making sure the core is done is executed at a very high level of quality. So those are all the aspects that we're looking for. And I'm proud to say we have an amazing group of franchisees, and they really do a good job. They really care about serving kids and doing well for their communities, and it's a really good family.
So tell me about, do you have a meet the team day or a discovery day?
We do. We have a discovery day, and we're very thorough during the discovery day in talking about all aspects of the business and learning about our franchisees and the things we just talked about. Why are you doing this, and what has you interested? So our discovery days, it's like 3/4 of a day here in Los Angeles in our office, and then we'll take our prospective franchises, to one of our learning centers so that they see the learning center, and we get to explain the business to them live in the learning center as well, and give them that genuine, not just the feel, but experience being in one of the locations.
And then, I mean, from my experiences, when somebody makes the effort to go to a live discovery day during the pandemic, quite a few brands were doing the Zoom type virtual discovery days like we're doing right now. Obviously, when somebody commits to visiting you, you're both hoping that this is a done deal and it's more of a formality. But I'm sure it's, to you guys, it's like the last look to make sure this person's right to join your system, right?
Yes, it's validation in both ways. They've been learning a lot about Mathnasium through our franchise development team, through their own research. We've been learning about them through our franchise development team, but there's nothing like being together in a room, seeing each other, meeting each other face to face, and really getting to know one another. Yeah. So it is validation of what they've learned about us, and it's validation of what we've learned about them. And we do like that to be the final step. Certainly, if our franchisees have any remaining open questions, we work with our prospective franchisees to get those taken care of. But that's meant to be the last step.
So what's next for Mathnasium? 1,000 locations worldwide. What are your hot areas in the U.S. that you'd like to add franchisees?
Yeah, we still have plenty of opportunity in the Northeast and the Pacific Northwest, but we still have lots of opportunities in local regions. So our prospective franchisees who are interested, please definitely reach out through mathnasium.com, and we'll get the conversation going.
Or me, I'll be happy to make that introduction. Hint.
Yeah, we'd love that as well. And we have a lot of room to grow the business even locally. We talked about some of our learning centers at $1 million. And by the way, that's about 300 children enrolled. Somewhere between 200 to 300 children enrolled gets us to that level of revenue. But there's plenty more to serve. And in the supplemental education industry is very fragmented. There's no one individual player that has some huge market share. And we're up there with the biggest market share there is, and even that it's not much. We're only talking about a couple percentage points. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because there's tremendous opportunity. It's only growing demand as well, and we've got this proven effective way of teaching children. And there's a recent stat I ran into about that said 43% of tutoring is actually for math tutoring. So wow. Specifically on math, the opportunity is huge. It's only growing. Unfortunately, the pandemic effects on education were particularly difficult, were particularly bad for math. Going back to our conversation earlier about what it takes for a child to understand and really resonate in terms of the explanations provided to them. So it's a tremendous opportunity. We have a lot of runway with each of our learning centers, but a lot of runway abroad as well. We're in a handful of countries, but this is something that can definitely cross borders, and kids are kids everywhere. And the two things we're good at, teaching math and working with children, that applies anywhere in the world. So,
yeah, I love it. Shant, any final thoughts for today or final parting words of wisdom? You've laid a lot of good stuff on us.
Yeah, Mathnasium, we've invested heavily in technology, in supporting our franchisees, training our franchisees, tremendous runway in terms of growth that's ahead. Franchising in general, provides a lot of structure, allows people to have a community of support. People don't have to figure things out on their own. So it's a great way to get into business, especially if you haven't had a business of your own before. And I think we're particularly good at what we do, both in terms of teaching kids, but also being a franchise concept.
Awesome. Well, Shant Assarian, CEO of Mathnasium, thank you so much for being here. Look forward to meeting you live in person someday soon.
That'll be great. Thanks for having me, Lance. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.